The Universality of Islam Part 2. 3. The socio-religious system of Hinduism. In this section, we will see that just as its racist doctrines exclude Judaism from being nominated as a candidate for the universal way of life, so too does Hinduism eliminate itself from consideration for precisely the same reason: racism. Hinduism is built around a racist apparatus incorporating a discriminatory caste system, which is an integral part of this religion. The caste system divides Hindu society into four major groups: the Brahmins, the learned and the priestly class; the Kshatriyas, the fighting and ruling class; the Vaisyas, the trading and the agricultural people; the Sudras, the lowest caste whose only business is to serve their superiors; and the Dalits, or the untouchables, who are outcast because they do not belong to any of the original fourfold grouping. They are untouchable because their touch is bound to pollute the other castes. Thus, they must remain at a sufficient distance from the other castes. These groups are only the head of the very complicated social fabric of the Hindu society, which contains about 2,800 unique communities. These castes are worlds apart from each other. This is one of the most outrageous manifestations of inequality now being practiced anywhere. One is born in one caste and dies in that caste. It is one which even the present political system of India repudiates. This system was incorporated into the teachings of Hinduism during the time of Manu, during the heydays of the Brahmin civilization. Since then, it has become an integral part of the Hindu socio-religious system. It has become more or less a hereditary system, subjugating the majority of the population, and is exploited by the minority ruling class to maintain its purity and superiority. Gustave Le Bon mentioned some of Manu's, one of the major authors of the Hindu teachings, the Vedas, teachings. This law gave to the Brahmins the distinction, superiority and sanctity, which raised their status, equal to that of the gods. Anyone who is born a Brahmin is the noblest creature on earth. He is the monarch of all the created things, and his duty is to defend the Shastras, the Hindu teachings that provides legitimacy to their power. Whatever is on the earth belongs to the Brahman, for he is the highest among all creatures. All things are for him. The Sudras have no rights whatsoever in Hindu society. They are considered lower than the animals. A Sudra should never acquire property, even if he has the opportunity, for in so doing he is causing pain to the Brahmins. Nothing can be more honorable for a Sudra than to serve the Brahman, nothing besides this can earn him any reward. A Sudra who assaults a higher caste man is liable to lose the limb with which the assault is made. And so it goes on, unceasingly condescending. The atonement for killing a dog, a cat, a frog, a lizard, a crow, an owl and a Sudra is the same. This extremely discriminatory system is not a thing of the past, but also it has its manifestations on present-day politics. It would be extremely difficult to believe, accept or adopt such an unjust system as a way of life, not to mention a global system for humanity. 4. Capitalism. Capitalism is not a religion, but it has become a way of life that millions of people aspire to and once achieved, defend with great enthusiasm. Millions of people have been fooled by the symbols of American capitalism, 29 such as the Statue of Liberty welcoming every newcomer to the land of happiness and opportunity. However, it seems as if many people have forgotten the history of slavery, the plantations, and the back of the bus theory, where blacks were not allowed to sit in the front seats of public transportation. Few capitalists seem bothered by the dire consequences of the unbridled pursuit of possessions and wealth, such as escalating rates of crime, rape, child molestation, battered women, drug addiction, covert and overt discrimination, homelessness, and the calamity facing old people. Phillipson, 1992, referred to the key investigator for Phelps-Stokes Fund, Thomas Jesse Jones, a Welsh American who was closely associated with the policy of separate education for the blacks of the USA. The philosophy behind the policy of providing appropriate education for the blacks was formulated clearly at the turn of the century on purely discriminatory grounds. The black people were viewed as a lower race fit for lower education and good for humble jobs because they were not white. The white people are to be the leaders, the Caucasian will rule, and the Negro is the opportunity of the South. Time has proven that he is best fitted to perform the heavy labor in the southern states, so he will willingly fill the more menial positions, and do the heavy work, at less wages than the American white man or any foreign race, quoted in Berman 1982, 180 and cited in Phillipson 1992, 199. 69% of all births of the African American community are out of wedlock. 2/3 of their children live in single-parent homes. About 1/3 of Afro-American boys can expect to serve a jail or prison sentence before the age of 16. 4 out of 10 black males aged 16 to 35 are in jail, in prison, on parole, or on probation. Highest rates of drug consumption. School dropouts and rape are found also among blacks. 31 Buchanan referred to this and similar statistics regarding minorities in an accusatory manner rather than trying to find out the real reasons behind such alarming statistics. Minorities that in the past faced slavery and extreme forms of brutality and discrimination are now experiencing covert institutional negligence and discrimination. Little effort to restore equality and justice is evident. Making retribution for the evil centuries and shameful history is studiously avoided, but pinpointing fingers and blaming the oppressed is not. An unsuitable system at the local level can never meet the challenges of a complicated and diverse world. Basically, capitalism results in economic inequality, particularly for minorities and non-producing segments, such as children and the elderly. Because of the great changes that have taken place in America and other Western societies during the last 100 years, many social problems have emerged. The huge corporate invasion of family farms and small family-centered enterprises have resulted in many socio-economic tensions. Although the capitalist system as a way of life has provided material gains for a small number of individuals, large segments of society suffer. Among them the senior citizens, single women, children born out of wedlock, and the non-white minorities. A common sight in downtown areas of American cities is the many elderly people among the homeless. A number of American sociologists forecast that the problems faced by the elderly will become even more severe in the near future. 32 Declining birth rates and increasing numbers of elderly people indicate that such trends will continue. It is expected that the elderly will soon constitute a large proportion of society. In 1900, people over 65 constituted 4% of the American population, 3 million people. By 1976, they comprised over 10% of the populace, 22 million. It is projected that by 2030 there will be more than 50 million people over 65 in the United States, making about 17% of the population. This is not just an American problem. It is a capitalist problem caused because individual wealth is valued over all things, including people. According to the UN statistics on the depopulation of capitalist Europe, in the year 2000, there were 494 million EU Europeans aged 15 to 65. That is projected to plunge to 365 million by 2050. Capitalism, However, the 107 million Europeans over 65 today will soar to 172 million in the same period. 34 By that time, more than a third of Europe's people will be over 60. Capitalism, in theory, calls for an equal treatment between all the segments of society. In practice it can never provide the right mechanism to do so. It institutes a different type of rigid socio-economic castes, which result in segregation and unequal access to social, health and educational services. The rights of the strong sectors of society are preserved: the young, the rich, the white, etc., while the rights of the weak second towards women, children, elderly people, single parents, elderly people, etc., are overlooked. There is no point in discussing the topic of equality and communism here, since it has been discredited and abandoned by most of its own theoreticians and practitioners. Regardless of all rigorous modifications, it brought little or no good to the nations that have adopted it at the point of the gun, only the ills of poverty, backwardness and misery. Capitalism is rooted in monopoly. The rich becomes richer while the poor gets poorer, otherwise, there will be no capitalism. The world is not in need for more global economical exploitations at the hands of the multinational capitalist company. The dignity of the human has to be restored through a universal way of life that is not discriminatory and that views man the most dignified creature on earth. This will lead us to our final destination in search of the only universal system of life, which is mankind's only hope for a non-discriminatory treatment. 5. Islam and universal equality. Any system that assumes universal applicability should appreciate its followers' potentials and recognize their achievements, regardless of their ethnic, racial, geographical or socio-economic backgrounds. In other words, such a system should only evaluate their potential, or their accomplishment, and not what they have naturally been endowed with in terms of such as their color, race, country of origin, etc. Islam views people as equal. In fact, in Islam inherent differences have a greater wisdom that is worthy of appreciation. The religion, which views that all people are equal in the eyes of their Creator, is Islam. And of His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and colors. Indeed, in that are signs for those of knowledge. The Quran 30:22. Prophet Muhammad said, "No Arab has any superiority over a non-Arab, nor does a white man have any superiority over a black man, or the black man any superiority over the white man. You are all the children of Adam, and Adam was created from dust earth." Islam rejects all forms of superiority complex-based one. All of you came from Adam and Adam was created from dust. The noblest among you before Allah is the most righteous. No Arab has any superiority over a non-Arab, nor does a non-Arab over an Arab. A white man has no superiority over a black man, nor does a black man over a white man but with righteousness. Have I clearly conveyed the message? O Allah, you are the witness. Let the one who is present deliver the message to the absent ones. Professor Ramakrishna Rao, a professing Hindu, 36 quoted Sarojini Naidu, the greatest Indian poetess, who spoke about how equality has been practiced in Islam by saying, "It was the first religion that preached and practiced democracy." 4. In the mosque, when the adhan, the Muslim call to prayer, is sounded and the worshippers are gathered together. The equality of Islam is embodied 5 times a day when the peasant and the king kneel side by side and proclaim, "God alone is great." The great poetess of India continues, "I have been struck over and again by this indivisible unity of Islam that makes a man instinctively a brother. When you meet an Egyptian, an Algerian, an Indian and a Turk in London, Egypt is the motherland for one and India is the motherland for another." Equality as an uncompromised Islamic principle is not recognized as a mere slogan to aspire for. It is practiced on a daily basis through the 5 daily prayers, where Muslims submit to God standing on straight lines with no distinction between them. The ultimate universal nature of Islam is exemplified during the Hajj pilgrimage, where about 3 million Muslims from more than 70 countries gather in one place with the same dress for the sake of pleasing God and glorifying Him. All barriers including that of race, color, language and status collapse. As some systems promote religious exclusiveness and discrimination, Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, and yet others encourage economic, consequently social, inequality, capitalism, communism and socialism, only Islam is an all-embracing and equalitarian system. This leads us to a second comparison between Islam and other existing ideological systems in relation to tolerance, the second condition for any proposed world order.